Okay, when we work on comprehension, obviously what we're trying to do is make sure that we're not just spitting out phrases we don't understand, but that we're really comprehending. And by practicing comprehension drills over and over, pretty soon the topic of the spoken words just becomes second nature, and that's what we're after. So here's an easy drill to get started with when it comes to comprehension. And this is kind of kinetic. It involves a lot of motion. And so what you do is you create a list of actions. For example, standing up, sitting down, walking, pointing. Just come up with about 15 or 20 different actions. Then have your informant speak and then do the action while you mimic it. So they're going to say, I am standing up. And I would encourage you to put these in whole phrases, not just standing up, sitting down. You want to always learn language if possible in the phrase that it's actually going to be used in. So I am standing up, and your informant stands up as he says it, and then you stand up and you say and repeat the phrase that they've just said. And do about 5 or 6 of these, and then have your informant just begin to kind of hit you with them one after another in random order. And this can be kind of fun as you try to speed up your comprehension. Then go from 5 or 6, add 2 or 3 more, and just progressively get more complex. Now the next time you work with your informant, do the same thing again, but instead of starting from the top of the list, start from the bottom of the list and work your way up. By doing this, you're going to really rapidly increase your comprehension in context. So after you've done a bunch of actions, then what you want to do is you want to move on to various objects. And this is, again, really simple to do. Just standing or sitting where you are, you can look around you. In front of me I have a computer, I have a camera, I have a coffee mug, I have a keyboard, I have a phone, I have a stapler, I have a chair, I have a desk. These are all items that you can begin to be quizzed on by your informant. So you may want to come up with a phrase. For example, this is a cup. And then you repeat, this is a cup. Then they might want to say, what is this? And then you say, this is a cup. Now, it seems pretty simple and seems pretty straightforward when you hear this, but once you get up to a dozen or more objects that are fairly newly learned, you're going to find out that this particular drill can really challenge you. Have a little fun with it. You could create a game. You could say 10 objects in so many seconds and go around the room and do as much as you can. Now, from wherever you're working with your informant, now you can begin walking around your house. Go into the kitchen. You've got all sorts of objects in the kitchen that you can be pointing to and trying to determine what they are as you work with your informant. Now, this is comprehension really for a beginner. But as you get a little bit more advanced and your vocabulary starts to expand, you're going to want to get a few additional sources of help. So let me give you some ideas with those. The first one that I would mention to you is the IKEA catalog. I believe it's the #1 print publication that's sent out to homes every year. And so it's usually not too hard to get a hold of. And it's filled with objects. Everything from kitchen utensils to furniture. It just goes on and on and on. And what you can do is you can open the catalog up with your informant and just start pointing to things. And you can ask, what is this? And they can respond, and then you can parrot it back. And the IKEA catalog just gives you many, many different ways of learning objects. You can also use manuals for just about any product that you might own. Now, I have an example here of a car manual. Now, when I was in country, not very long, I began to have problems with the car that I was driving. And you go to a car mechanic, and what you find is that culture has a completely different vocabulary, of course, for everything that's on your car. And I realized that if I was going to negotiate car repairs, I needed to very quickly learn what the various major components of an engine were. So you can use the car manual with your informant. You open it up, you begin to point to objects, and they can begin to tell you what all the various parts of the car might be. You can also do this by going out to your car, lifting up the hood, and just pointing to different things. Assuming, of course, that your informant knows about cars. But let's say you want to do something besides cars. Another product that you might want to consider could be your computer. A computer has numerous different components to it, and there's all sorts of extra little pieces of equipment that we add to it, and it's something that's part of everyday life these days, and so those are also good items. So think about the various products that are around you and whether or not you could use them to help with comprehension. Picture dictionaries are a very helpful tool. If you go on to Amazon.com, put in picture dictionary, and you're going to get back all sorts of hits. Here I've just taken one page snap out of one. It shows a classroom. And these items are numbered with their English. Now, if you're drilling with these, I would suggest you cover up the English if possible. And now you can have your informant begin to point to different things on this picture dictionary, and you will have an unending source of vocabulary and comprehension drills that you can do with it. Just this one resource. And they make these at children's levels, and those are very, very helpful just as you're getting started. And the other thing I've noticed about these, in many countries they produce these picture books and they sell them in English because they want their kids to learn English. And so go to a bookstore there and just kind of poke around wherever you're at, and chances are pretty good that you're going to find at least a child's picture dictionary. They also have these that are very technical, hundreds and hundreds of pages of blow-ups of various items, from buildings and everything in a building to desks and everything in a desk, bolts, hinges, etc., etc. And you can get again, an endless assortment of new words this way. Of course, there's the internet. If you Google picture dictionary, you're going to find that there are online dictionaries as well. I'll give you a link here to one that I think is really pretty awesome. That's the Merriam-Webster's Visual Dictionary. And if you go on there and begin to surf around, you're going to find tons of pictures that you can use with your language informant that they just point to various items and teach you while you learn to say these words. Here are some topics you could explore, particularly in your first few months of learning the language, things that you're going to need to know. We already discussed actions. How about numbers? Everybody has to know numbers. The first thing that I learned in the culture that we worked in was right and left and 1 through 10. Money is an important topic. Obviously, you're going to want to know how to count in their money, and you're going to want to know how to say the names of all the major denominations and the bills that they have there. And so money's a good one. Time, how to tell time. People tell time differently all around the world. And you don't want to use a pattern from your own language, but you want to learn to use their pattern when they tell time. Simple math, so you want to add, subtract, divide, multiply. And you want to be able to do it in their language. Left, right, up, down, already mentioned that, very important. Here's another one that's kind of very important even in the early days. Directions, how to get from here to there. I've noticed, for example, that in the United States, we always label our roads north, south, east, and west. And we're highly dependent on compass directions when we tell people, take this highway, go west, etc. But where I worked in Croatia and Bosnia, things were negotiated instead by street names and by city names. And it took a little different way of thinking about how to do directions. And similar to that, you can use maps, pull a map out, and talk about, mountains, lakes, streams, rivers, borders, and these are all comprehension terms you're going to want to write down. So comprehension is assisted a great deal by using your informant and having them quiz you and using the language, using real phrases. Start really basic and get more complex as you go. And make cards, write things down, review them, and don't forget to always kind of circle back on old language that you've learned and have thought you've gotten down, and just kind of reinforce that by repeating it. Just comprehension drills with your language informant could take up quite a bit of time each day if you focused on them. So go out and give those a try. Hope you enjoy using them, and we'll see you in the next session.